Money. This was a very expensive exercise for KPMG. We're delighted with what we've got. It would be ridiculous for me to say that open checkbook, that shouldn't happen. But what I would say is if you time these issues in terms of your planning and what you design into a building, you can actually save cost. It's much better to put that cost in now at the front end, in my view, than then to come to the building that I think Sophie mentioned, that an old building, or where there was mention of a building where there may be a retrofit of some sort, or worst case, the developer has actually fitted out a building for you and you've just got to rip everything out and rebuild as to your requirements. So that's mine. I think I'm passing on to Paul, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you to Alastair. A really fascinating project. We now move on to Paul Harrington, Head of Property at PwC. You may have read it in the press recently. PwC have a new corporate identity by Wolf Olins, a new look. So what's happening on the space front?
First of all, for those of you who may be interested, I'm pleased to say that my zip is intact, but I thought I'd take the security of the podium. Aspirations and Innovations. I thought I'd actually start with an impressive title, just in case it goes to ratchet from here on in. Aspirations is quite important here because we're still fitting the building out. We're still a couple of months off occupation. And in terms of innovation, innovation for us is actually responding to business change, recognizing that the nature of work is changing. But innovation, we must realize, it's about taking a risk. And we're in a time now where most people are averse to risk. For us, it's about understanding that risk and then managing it effectively. I'll very quickly go through evolving the strategy, the building itself, how we approached the design of the space, sustainability, and I do want to spend some time on sustainability and raising the bar. I think 2 or 3 years ago, sustainability was a peripheral item. What we're actually now finding, it's in the heart of most corporates, and it's there to stay. PwC, we approach it as part of our DNA. I'll briefly talk about technology. Yes, we are still cabling our buildings because we still think there's a risk, but we're accountants. And then quickly close on some change management, because you can't actually do anything with workplace without understanding and spending a lot of time with the business around change management. In terms of evolving the strategy, very similar to KPMG, we've been actually working on this for the last 5 years. Our portfolio in London is probably the product over the last 20 years of 2 mergers, a demerger where we sold off our consultancy business. We've had a globalization. Like most other businesses, we've bought some niche businesses. Currently, we have 8 locations. Our strategy has been to locate into 2 central locations, some distance apart, to actually help and assist our business continuity. And we've about 11,500 people across London. 2 centre location, well linked to public transport, and that's very important to us. Long-term cost containment, we wanted a £40 rent rather than £55 rent. We also have no double overhead costs with the existing leases terminating on our existing portfolio. And in terms of sustainable design, to some extent it doesn't matter whether it's BREEAM or it's LEED. It just needs to be an exemplar of sustainable design. I've talked about close links to transport infrastructure. We have had the mantra for quite some time within PwC about the best place to work. Our people do spend an awful lot of time, especially our auditors, in clients' premises. Auditors always get the worst space in the building. Part of the glue that keeps them back to the business is actually to come into the office and have good coffee, meet their peer groups, because the average age in our business is probably about 28, 29 years of age. Now, a lot of those people will actually go through the business together in peer groups, and it's recognizing those peer groups. So it's having the ability to engage with their peer groups when they come back into the office. As Jeremy said, we've just changed the brand. We're no longer PricewaterhouseCoopers, we're PwC. Catchy little item, but we're getting there. We're recognizing the firm's innovation in new working practices. For us, we started this a long time ago. We've always been hoteling space, and I think quite often I've used an analogy of a staircase. We did a project in Birmingham 5 or 6 years ago, which in my mind, we went up about 4 or 5 spaces at a time. Since then, we've been moving one stair at a time. Last year, we did a project in Glasgow that was a forerunner of this building, and we probably achieved, I think, another 2 steps. I'm hoping with this project, we'll actually achieve significantly more than that. The next is important. It's about the space and what the space should be. And I think the words speak for itself. It's enabling change, providing effective support, offering choice, connectivity, whether it's wireless or in the wires, and reflecting function, not hierarchy. And to provide high quality entertaining and interactive space, not just for clients, but for your people. We initiated a PwC welcome with our Birmingham project about 5 years ago. It was set up originally to support clients, but we found 98% of the people coming through the door were actually our own people. So PwC welcome actually became about supporting our own people. This is the site, 7 More London. Fortunately for us, it was the last development on the site, so there was no disruption to us. Unfortunately, our neighbours E&Y got most of it. That's unfortunate. The building is just under about 500,000 square feet. It will accommodate, day one, about 5,500 people. We've designed it, we hotel our space. We design our space at about 80 square feet per person. We have a sharing ratio right across the business, not just different groups, but right across the business, about 1.4 to 1. I think in time, we'll probably operate 7,500, even 8,000 people out of this building, because we will use the building in a different way. The building is fully air conditioned, and I'll come back to that. It was, as I said before, it was the last site for development. What was important to us, I think, and Alastair's already said that the development of his building, this was at outline planning stage. We were able to spend quite some time in developing up the design. So for us, it was very much like an owner-occupier building. The base build shell and core was completed December 2010. It should have been completed 4 months sooner, but we had a 20-inch Victorian water main that flooded the whole of Tooley Street, and also our basement premises where our trigen was. 4 months was also helpful because it enabled us to complete some of our detailed design stage. We started fit out on the 4th of January. Completion from the contractor is the end of February. We've got a couple of weeks just to do our own internal commissioning, and we'll be fully occupied at the beginning of May. That's the building. It's a Foster's building. I think it's a fantastic looking building, and will become iconic. Not iconic in the way that Embankment Place looks on the river, but iconic for the way in which this building will be used. That's a cross-section between the building. We've got a 3-storey atrium with a garden terrace above. We've got bridges at levels 2, 5 and 8. We had a terrace on the 10th floor. We actually covered that with an atrium because we thought that would be really useful as entertaining space. That's the third story garden terrace. That's the entrance foyer, a little bit Billy Smart, but it looks very smart. You'll see we've already started putting our new branding and new colours. We've gone away from the old corporate blues to very attractive red burgundies, oranges and yellows. This is a practice floor. It's been, for those that are into Star Wars, it's been christened the Millennium Falcon. The 55,000 square foot floor place. Good natural light. There's about 98% natural daylight coming into this building, which is fantastic. I think in the terms of the way we've designed the space, it's a one-firm approach. What we mean by that is everybody actually books in. We've got a generic floor layout from levels 6 through to 1. We still have partner offices, but the partner offices double as internal meeting rooms when they book out. We've also designed the offices now to break down some of the barriers. So the office is just not a door, it actually folds back to a 2-meter wide opening. We've got a single furniture footprint throughout the open plan, and we have no pedestals under the desks, so we've removed all the personal storage. We've actually kept the central drum clear. These are our breakout areas, and we've put the breakout areas close to the core areas. The yellow areas we call our special areas. They're meeting room areas, client entertaining areas. We've got the restaurant on the 3rd floor, which spills out into the garden terrace. The ground floor is a myriad of uses. It's a seminar space right along this wing. Graduate recruitment, which we seem to do all the year round. We've put a graduate recruitment place in there, and the inevitable coffee bar on the ground floor. We're changing the use of space. I think when we started looking at open plan around 20 years ago, it was factory farming moving to free range. I think what I'm trying to show here is the desk space that we're actually doing is reducing year in year. There are other arrangements and other work practices that we're actually putting around the building. This just shows the intensity of debate that goes on. This is research from one of our business units, actually going through our cryptag and our booking in space. What we started to do about 6 or 7 years ago, we took 30% of our portfolio out. We actually did that before the recession. It wasn't that we knew there was a recession coming. We actually wanted to use our space far more intelligently. What that inevitably has meant for us, where our desks were 50% occupied some time ago, they're actually up to about 80%. So we're basing most of our usage on 80%. Integrated service delivery, we'd have everybody involved from day one, almost since we broke ground, with the FM, the IT guys, and our service providers, all actually developing the detail fit out. Sustainability, I mentioned this at the outset, it's really important. This was an article that went into the Evening Standard, London's most eco-friendly building. What we actually wanted to do with this was raise the bar. We wanted to dispel a number of myths. I think the first myth was that occupiers don't want sustainable buildings. The second myth that we wanted to dispel was that sustainable buildings should cost a lot of money. They don't. It's about attention to detail and it's about collaboration. And the third myth, and having spoken to a lot of developers in London, is that air-conditioned buildings would never achieve a BREEAM Outstanding assessment. The building did achieve BREEAM Outstanding. So some of the things that came out of that, we were 70% better than the current building regs on CO2 emissions. We have, similar to KPMG, 25% on-site renewable electricity, which is part of the Trigen, and 45% on-site low and zero carbon. We've used reheat. We've also used the power down from the lifts to actually generate more electricity. We've got solar panels on the roof for hot water in the toilet areas. We also looked at more solar panels in the building to do a variety of other things. But when we actually looked at the payback of that, it was about a 50 or 60 year payback. It didn't make good business sense to us, so we actually didn't do that. But we did put the infrastructure in the building, because it cost very little to do that at the outset, that we could actually put some tanks in at a later date. We've gone chill beams, and we've gone chill beams throughout the building. We actually, when we started negotiating this building with the developer in 2006, we actually got the developer to achieve, I've gone. It wasn't outstanding, it was next one down. Can somebody help me? Excellent, thank you. Excellent. What actually happened with the new 2008 coming down, the 73 points that the developer had scored on the 2006, actually on the way that they were remeasuring, it went down to 55. What we had to do with that, and the challenge we set the team, was to push that up to 85 to achieve it. And this is what we did. Every good presentation should have a graph, and this is mine. The red actually is the developer's specification, which in all honesty was actually a very good specification. To actually achieve outstanding,